Hello, I'm Muskan Samtani of KASH Events and Entertainment, and tonight I'm here to introduce to you an inspiring leader who has flourished as a self-made businessman right here in Hong Kong. He is Mr. Ajmal Samuel, the founder of ASAP, a transaction processing company. But more than that, he is a man who has a motivating life story, a story that has touched so many lives. Thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you very much.
It's always such an honor to be in the presence of a highly elevated and lifted spirit like yourselves.
Thank you.
So even though we've heard your story and read your story innumerable amount of times, we never have enough. And I'm sure our viewers are going to feel the same tonight after this interview. So would you share a little bit of your life journey with us and our viewers?
Okay, I'll try and attempt to do that. Basically, if I go into the details of my life story, I think it's going to be a very long time we'll be talking about. So I'll just touch upon a few things, and I'll start with my first career, or my first thing I did in my life, which was a military career. I started off as an army officer in the Pakistan military. I was a captain I was commissioned as a captain in Pakistan military. And I was serving there in the military, in the Corps of Signals, telecommunications. So I was a telecommunication engineer.
Wow.
Okay. And I was working in northern Pakistan region. We all know the region Kashmir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I had a military accident in Kashmir, because of which I ended up being in a wheelchair.
Okay.
So that was a difficult time for me. I was very young. I was only about 21 years of age.
Wow.
Okay. So I had to basically rethink and relearn my whole life again and understand what's happened to me, the changes that happened to me, and then how do I move on. So it was not something it happened overnight. I was quite seriously injured, so I was in rehabilitation for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Surgeries and rehabilitation. So I was in a hospital without seeing any sunlight for about 2 years.
Wow.
And that was quite a tough time for me. So going through a lot of surgeries, etc. And I was fortunate enough to be in a hospital in the UK and in Germany. And so I went through a lot of relearning how to live my life again. At a young age, it's not easy at all,
Sure.
because you have your own identity, which you had created. For me, I had created my identity as an army officer, and I had to fight that identity and overcome that identity and move on to what am I going to do next. And then Hong Kong came into the picture. Just before Hong Kong came into the picture, I want to mention something which will relate back to where I am today. Is after my rehab was finished, that was not the end of rehab. Actually, that was the beginning of my life.
Wow.
Okay, so I had to learn how to live my life, and especially one small little detail which I'll mention here is the component which really last 25 years I've lived with is the pain. Because of my accident, I had a condition. I have a condition in which I have chronic pain in my legs all the time. So I had to struggle with the fact that I'm in a wheelchair, and I had to struggle with the fact that I was in constant pain all the time. So I was on medication, a lot of medication for that. And then my parents were living in Hong Kong, so I moved to Hong Kong, unknowingly that it was not a very wise decision. Back then, I think now it was a good decision to make.
Okay.
Yeah. So moving to Hong Kong was a big challenge, because I was coming into a place where first of all, I was in a wheelchair, South Asian, and I didn't speak any Cantonese. Okay.
Wow.
So for me to even think about coming to Hong Kong and living in Hong Kong was a bit of a foolish mistake, foolish thing to do. But anyway, the way I am, I like challenges, so I moved to Hong Kong and I started looking for a job, and it was a real tough one. I was constantly confronted with rejections, thousands of rejections, and but it's okay. I prevailed. It took me about a year or so.
Wow.
I think, and a lot of family support from my parents as well, and that I found a job which I had to match my expectations. But I had engineering degree from the military, and I also, while I was in Germany, I did another degree in computer science.
Wow.
So I was qualified, rather overqualified for the jobs. I was qualified for the jobs I was applying, but the people were not. In Hong Kong, I think it was a mental mental block or not enough awareness in Hong Kong at that time that they would give a job to somebody in a wheelchair with so much responsibility.
Sure.
So that I had to compromise. I had to come in terms with that and say, okay, I'm not going to aim here, I'm going to aim here, at least to get into the system. So my first job was basically fixing computers.
Wow.
Okay, that's what I did for a living, was
Okay.
to fix computers. And slowly in that company, so I had to come down a lot. I had to really come from here, I had to come here. Okay, I'm going to not go in as a highly paid consultant or whatever, but something with a basic skill set. And I had to build my career based on that. So for me, that was an excellent platform to go at ground zero and to learn how the fundamentals of the city work, and then to build myself up from there.
Wow.
And that's what I've done in the last 20 odd years. I've built myself knowing what's the ground zero, and then building myself from the ground zero. And slowly, so first job, it was tough and very difficult to find a job. And it was very interesting. In my second job, I was headhunted.
Oh, wow. That was a shift.
So things moved quite quickly.
Yeah.
From the minute I got into the system and I started displaying or learning and showing that I was as capable, if not more capable, than the people around me.
Yeah.
So then I got hunted by a Silicon Valley company based in Hong Kong. They asked me to come and work for them, and that's how my story started, because they were looking for somebody with very specialized fields of area.
And how did that moment feel? Yes, you know, this is what I've been waiting for.
It was very exhilarating and also gratifying that I worked very hard. For the first 5 years or so, I was literally working from 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock till 12, 1 o'clock at night.
Wow.
That was my routine. I had no life. There was no concept
Just
of
working hard.
Just working hard, trying to get to know the local working environment. How does this city operate, and how do I fit in?
Of course.
Understanding myself and understanding the city and trying to correlate that together, put it all together. That's what happened in the first 5 years. And then when this offer came for me to work for another company, it was again, wow, this is cool. And but fortunately or unfortunately, actually fortunately, I wouldn't say unfortunately, this was a company which was doing very well. It was a Silicon Valley company, and they were doing very well in Asia. Actually, they had presence all over the world.
Okay.
And I was offered to come in and work as a consultant with them. And this was during the dot-com era.
Wow.
Okay. And that was a good learning experience for me, because this company went from nothing to a huge enterprise in no time. And this company was then offered a buyout from big guys like Microsoft and IBM.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And the guy who owned this company refused to sell out. So literally within a year, the company had to shut down, because the big guys again did exactly what these guys we were doing, and I was again without a job.
Oh gosh.
So from being headhunted, from struggling to the point where coming
where you wanted to be.
Then I being headhunted, and again having no work at all.
Right.
But that time I also realized the power of networks in Hong Kong.
Yes.
You have to have your networks in Hong Kong, and I already had built some of my networks, so getting to the next stage wasn't that difficult. And that's where I was hired by this mainland Chinese group. Where I worked for them doing research and development in various areas, and I was responsible for various projects in China and Hong Kong. And after working for some years with this group, they apparently realized my potential, and one of the companies they owned was CityLine. Okay. And they asked me if I could take over the company, go in and run this company, because the company wasn't doing very well.
Wow. And how many years ago was this now?
This was almost like 8 years ago, eight,
Okay.
9 years ago.
Wow.
I was asked to step in because the company wasn't doing very well.
Right.
And just on that note, I was not the only one who was asked.
Okay.
There were several people from the group, senior
Sure.
people, who were asked to step in and take over Cityline.
Right, right.
But everybody refused
What was it? Okay.
because they thought that this is just a very bleak future for them. There's nothing there. If they go in, it's going to be the end of their career because they have made their careers and now suddenly
Wow.
go into Cityline and what it's going to do, because in the good old days, Cityline was a very small business. It was a big brand because they had a big entity behind them,
Sure.
but it was not, from turnover point of view, it was not a very enticing.
They must be pulling their hair today,
Yeah,
refusing that job.
actually, there some of them are. They're very jealous
I'm
of what
sure.
happened.
I'm sure.
But I moved in and I took it as a challenge. Okay, I weighed my pros and cons and
Yes.
what I had on the table, and I said, okay, it's a good opportunity for me to, if I really can do something, here is the place I can show, because it's a platform which is already there.
Sure.
It's a fresh area as well as it has legacy as well.
Of course.
So for
of
me,
course.
it's a good thing to go and change it if I
Wow.
really can change. It was
Wow.
not an easy job. And I, again, was rather fortunate again. I took this business, which was about a 20 million turnover business per year, and I changed it into a $3.5 billion business
Wow.
in about 3 years.
That's
So
marvelous.
that was a huge learning for me because I didn't have any business experience. I never went to any business school or
Wow.
whatever. So I just learned everything on the job. And I had good mentors and I had good people around me who really taught me how to get my hands around business,
Sure.
not just technology. And I also had a strong fundamentals in place from technology, so I could run a technology company and know what's happening and bring the business context. You know. And that's how Cityline happened. So in my life, that was a huge, it's a big factor, contributing factor in my life.
Wow.
And yeah, I was able to convert that company into the biggest ticketing company in Asia.
Wow.
Okay, not only in Asia, in Australia as well.
Wow.
So as a company, it does more tickets than any companies in this region.
Wow. I think we need to have a separate talk just for how you managed to do that. I mean, that would have been
It's full of challenges and full of struggles, but
definitely.
again, looking at opportunities which are available to you and how to leverage them and how to go ahead and do it. Sometimes it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
Maybe difficult is not the word, but challenging.
Challenging.
Because you see it right in front of you, but you do not know how to capture it because it comes with a lot of risks.
Definitely.
So how are you going to take those risks and factor them in and really go over doing that? And once I was finished with my whole revamp of Cityline, it already had about 90% of the market share in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Okay, so without you guys knowing anything
Yes.
about it, but Cityline runs the whole back office for Hong Kong government. Arctics and all that is actually Cityline.
Okay.
If you buy anything to Disney, Disney's ticketing systems,
Wow.
all the back office is run by them,
Wow.
and several more, the cinemas and etc. etc.
Wow.
So I did all of that, and then I thought it was time for a challenge for myself because I had reached that pinnacle where I needed something more.
Something more.
Yeah, and that's where I started ASAP transaction processing.
Wow.
And so it's been a long, long journey getting to where I am today, and it's been 3 years now, and things are going okay. So that was my just very quick recap.
Very quick recap.
Oh.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, I'd like to know more of what sort of kept you motivated all this while. I mean, this is just something that you know, we can hear a story, but I mean, it will only be so much more touching and personal to understand, you know, what exactly motivated you to go through all of this.
You know, when I had my accident, I was confronted with death. That's what happened. I had a life and death experience. And for me, right from day one, by day one I mean right after my accident,
Right.
First couple of years were really challenging and really hard, difficult for me. It's always been life. How do I live my life?
Okay.
And life is what motivates me. And this basic essence of life, how do you treat life? Okay.
Okay.
It's a very, it might be sounding very small.
No, it's
okay,
profound.
but
I
it's
mean,
very important because everybody has a gift of life. We all
Yes.
live.
Yes.
But it is how we utilize that gift of life. And how do we, what do we do around us that is going to make that small little difference in our own lives and in other people's lives around us, okay? And I think that was one of the things which really, it is something very basic,
Yes.
and people don't even need to know about it.
Yeah.
But it's a basic drive inside you. How can I make things better around myself by bettering myself? Okay?
Wow.
And that was something which, if you look in most of the endeavors in my life, and there are many, okay, and
Yes.
Cityline was just one of those
Yes.
things which I mentioned to you. And there are many endeavors in my life. It's all about how do you tackle the question of life? How do you tackle the question of responsibility to people around you? How do you tackle the question of responsibility of your existence?
Yes.
Okay, and I think that is the very core fundamental of taking on new challenges, not just challenges, but taking on challenges responsibly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because many people can take challenges on, but
Yes,
they have no
of
idea what
course.
it's going to end up doing. But taking on challenges in a responsible manner and in a manner you know you can do something. And I do really understand that many times we do things which are completely outside our scope. We do not know
Yes.
what is going to happen.
Right.
But at least we can do some thinking around it and say, okay, this is what I'm entering into,
Yes.
and let me do my background work around it, and then jump into it. And then you can fight your way through.
Wow.
Okay. So, but that is, I think this is the core value which really drives me on a daily basis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to where we started our interview, when you talked about pain being such a major factor, in your life and the way you dealt with challenges and how it always was there, but now it's not, thankfully, and thanks to your
there,
drive, it's still there. Okay,
but
it's
I have to deal with it
minimally
differently. Yeah.
Okay, it's still there, but the fact that I believe that you did give painkillers almost
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah.
You gave it up, and you thought that it was time to give your drive upon something else.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? How did you manage to just think of giving this up, and then how did you deal with it post giving it up?
It's actually itself a very interesting story. Okay. So
Oh,
first
sure.
of all, I'll tell you a little bit about my pain. So I suffer from chronic pain,
Okay.
and till today I suffer from chronic pain. Okay, and it's in my lower limbs, and I'm going to be a little explicit in telling you how it feels, because I think it's important for you to know how it
Yes.
feels.
Yes.
It's like taking a knife
Yeah.
and stabbing it in my knee
Yeah.
and doing like this.
Oh gosh.
That's how it feels, and till today it feels like that.
Wow.
Okay, but when I had my injury, immediately after my injury, pain was something I had to deal with in addition to my injury.
Right.
Okay, so it was really debilitating. It was not something which I was always very frustrated and angry with myself and my surroundings. Why do I have to deal with the injury and the pain?
Right. Of course.
It's
Yes.
like, can it not be just one thing I have to deal with rather
Yeah.
than a whole slew of things? Yeah. So I was going back to the doctors and asking them what can I do, what to do, etc. And they kept on putting me, doctors being doctors, they were doing their job.
Of course.
They kept on putting me on a lot of pain medication, including morphine and cocaine.
Wow.
And I ended up, when I was in Hong Kong, when I came to Hong Kong, and almost about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I was taking about 1,500 milligrams of morphine and cocaine every day.
Wow.
And this much of morphine and cocaine can easily kill a horse.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was on huge amounts of dosages of this medication. But in parallel, I had my own struggle going on in my career.
Right.
So I was working very hard and trying to, I think as I mentioned earlier, get to know Hong Kong, get to know myself in
Yes.
Hong Kong, and put it all together. So it came to a point when I was the CEO of Cityline,
Yeah.
I was actually tasked with negotiating with the government. I was not tasked with negotiating with big enterprises,
Yeah.
with Disney, etc. And I could see I could feel that there was a couple of millisecond of delay every negotiations I was going through.
Wow.
And it was really irritating me.
Okay.
The delay was just like, why do I have this delay in respond and understanding what these guys are talking about?
Right.
So I went back and I started eliminating all what could be causing this.
Sure.
And one of the biggest thing which came on my radar was the opioids and the cocaine.
Right.
It was just a factor in my life which I had to deal with. So me being myself, I decided they're not going to be part of my life, because this is just too much of a liability if I really want to grow myself in my career, in my life. And I talked to a few doctors.
Right.
And I did a lot of research.
Right.
And everything came down to, no, don't do it, because if you stop your medication, you can do a gradual withdrawal,
Yeah.
but if you just do a cold turkey, you can have a heart attack.
Wow.
Or a stroke or a seizure, etc. And that was the time I did a lot. During my research, it came up, one of the things which can help is physical fitness.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I started sports. Again, being extreme guy, I
Yes.
started doing marathons and triathlons and all of that. That's the time I started with my endurance sports. And I could notice that it was helping me. And then one day I decided that, okay, today is going to be the last day I take my medication,
Wow.
my drugs. And again, with a lot of support from my friends and family, I stopped everything.
Did they really support you?
Yes.
Or they were a little bit terrified that
They
you were
were
going to
of
give it
course,
up?
all
Yeah.
my friends and my family, they were terrified. My
Yeah.
family didn't know. My friends, they were terrified
Yeah.
that what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
they were on standby to see what
gosh.
might
I can
happen.
only imagine.
But I didn't stop going to work. I was in Cityline. I was the CEO of Cityline that time.
Wow.
I continued. Nobody knew from work that I was going through this. I completely got rid of my medication and still continued working.
Wow.
And I used to go every morning to work and do my training and go to work and cope with work and then go back home. And then it was a tough couple of months. Two months or so was really, really difficult.
Wow.
But I had to get over this, and eventually I prevailed, and I was able to get it now. For last 9-10 years, I have no medication whatsoever.
Wow. Must feel amazing.
Yeah, it's a good thing, because, and I also learned another thing which is very interesting along with the journey in my life, was that my willpower was much stronger than the medication.
Mm.
I still have pain,
Right.
but I've taught my body and my brain, people say brain is here.
Yes.
It's not here.
Oh.
Your whole body is the brain. It's interconnected. Okay, you can teach yourself how a certain part of the body is going to feel.
Wow.
So I just sort of trained myself that the pain is going to be taken care of by myself without any external intervention.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's how I went forward, and sports helped me a lot, and because they give you endorphins,
Right.
the more
Okay.
sports you do, and I have remained fit for the last whatever years, doing
Wow.
embarking on various sports and all that.
So elaborate a little bit more about the physical activities, the kind of things you've done in the past, because obviously you had a passion for it, I believe, also when you were in the army.
Yeah, I was very active from a physical standpoint. I was doing, I was an avid polo player. I used to play polo.
Oh wow,
Okay.
well, that's a fun sport.
It's a real fun sport, but it's a sport which you really need to have a lot of expertise and skill set,
I'm
because
sure.
you're dealing with horses. I say openly,
Yes.
is my first love of my life. Okay?
Is it?
Yes.
Oh wow.
I love horses, and
Wow.
I have I was riding, doing horse riding at a very young age, about 12, 13 or so.
Wow.
I started riding horse. This was one of the young.
Do you have one of your own?
When I was in the military, I had 2 ponies, but not anymore. I don't need them.
I'm
So.
jealous.
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. That was my past life, and of course, on top of that, I was also doing things like skydiving and scuba diving
and this was before your accident?
Yeah, and triathlons or
Wow.
marathons I was doing before my accident.
Okay.
So there was a big thing missing in my life.
Yes.
And actually
I'm
that
sure.
whole idea about giving up medication and taking up sports was excellent.
Right.
Because this gave me back that whole new, rather not new, the old feeling of being physically fit, which really makes me almost high,
Yes.
being physically fit. So I got back into that and I started taking part in triathlons.
Right.
I've done, every year I'm committed to doing an Ironman. So I do half Ironman and an Ironman every year. I'll do that.
Wow.
I'm committed to that in Singapore.
Right.
Even if I'm not trained, or I have to do it because I committed to the local sports association that I'll take part as long as I can do it. And I also do marathons. And I was actually a big advocate in making Hong Kong Marathon accessible for wheelchair athletes.
Wow.
And it happened this year, in the beginning of this year.
Right.
And in the course of doing all these things, I've also been doing scuba diving, deep sea scuba diving.
You're stealing all my dreams.
There you go. So now I've got something for you to do. Yeah?
Lots of things. Lots of things.
And I've also started I do dragon boat racing.
Wow.
Actually, this year I'll be taking part in the Hong Kong Dragon Boat Race. It's
Wow.
a World Championships this year.
Fabulous.
And also I started about 6-7 months ago. I started single scull rowing.
Ah, that's
Okay.
different.
Yeah, it's a different sport altogether. I was approached. They saw me in the Dragon Boat Race and they asked me, "We would like you to take part."
Wow. Okay.
And now I'm actually representing Hong Kong.
Wow.
And I am the current Hong Kong champion for my category.
Wow. How many hats do you wear?
It's many,
Multiple.
many. So there's a
can
lot of things
imagine.
happening in my sports or physical side, which I continue to do, and I will. There are many more things which I have in my life which I want to do when it comes to the physical side, and let's see how it goes. And
Well, that's great that you share that, because today I think it's very important to know the importance of physical activities in your life. And I mean, what better example than understanding and knowing that the amount of medication you were on and the amount of pain you had to how you were able to almost transform that into putting it into your physical activities. I mean, it must have a huge impact.
I think
on your life.
from my point of view, physical health is equal to mental health.
Wow.
Okay. And that's something I've learned firsthand.
Wow.
From being physically fit
Right.
to being completely unfit and going through a whole lot of, and then again being fit. So I've seen the whole cycle.
Right.
And I really believe passionately that physical health equal to mental health.
Wow.
So it is important for people to know that, and people need to get out there and participate or take part in physical training of whatever nature. It's important.
You'll see me soon out there somewhere running
Good.
around.
I
Doing
look
some
forward,
sort
yeah.
of activity. So, lastly, just, I have a question for you regarding KASH, and it's still being in its formative years, and of not what you know of KASH Events and Entertainment. What do you think about the company as a whole and the founders?
I think, first of all, just like what I talked about, my challenges in life,
Yes.
I think KASH and the founders, they have to really understand, okay, it's a new entity.
Right.
So they really need to understand their role and KASH's role
Right.
and how to put these things together.
Right.
The minute these things come together, I think you have a lot of passion,
Right.
okay, to grow and become a successful organization or successful entity, successful company. And that's what you should look for. And it's a lot of looking out for ideas and looking out for your own, what you feel inside and how to translate that into what you're doing. It's very important. And I think you'll be doing, KASH and the founders, they will be doing very, very well and okay. And you have support from various people around you, and that's important as well.
Yes, definitely. And you being a great mentor to us, it has always been a pleasure having conversations with you, getting advice from you, and we really appreciate it. You've really walked a lot of the journey with us, so it's a pleasure. And thank you for sharing all your thoughts with us tonight. I'm sure our viewers are going to love hearing your ideas and your advices, and I'm sure they'll apply it in their lives as well. So I hope you found Mr. Ajmal's story as inspirational as we did at KASH, and that you will use it in your daily life in one way or another and keep challenging your limitations. This is Muskan Samtani from KASH Events and Entertainment signing off. Have a great evening.